What else does Sean say at the beginning? Hi, I'm Sean Jennings, and this is Don't Panic, episode 374 on November 13th, 2023. Does that sound good?
Nice.
Except, yes, I'm obviously not Sean Jennings. We're just two guys who can't abide decaf coffee. It's Colby and Dan. Sean's not here. He's at a very important business meeting. No, dinner. Was it a dinner?
Is that the story we're going with? Do we know if it's a business dinner? I assume so. It could be just a really nice dinner.
Sean said, I have a work dinner tonight, but I think I'll be back in time. So
I missed that part.
I assume he's out closing deals or something, right? Must be what he's doing.
ABC.
Always be. Always be.
So actually, on the subject of decaf coffee, but actually I'm going to write down, I have a list of subtopics here, and I'm going to write down decaf coffee because I do want to talk about that.
Ooh. Cool.
But we have the banter section, the Sean mandated banter section.
He'll know.
I went to LA for the first time this weekend. That's really? A thing that happened in my life. Have you ever been to the great city of Los Angeles?
The only time I went to Los Angeles was when you and I went to Hawaii. My connection back home was through Los Angeles. So I've been to LAX. I have not been outside.
One thing I learned at LAX is the airport lounges in LAX have outdoor patios because, of course, they do, because you can be outside year round, which is great for those of us who don't want to catch COVID on a plane because you can just hang out outside. It was actually that was my favorite, definitely my favorite part of LAX. That was cool.
Which airport lounge do you belong to?
So if you have some kind of Amex card, I don't know which one, and you are flying Delta, you can get into the Delta lounge. Which in my experience, actually, maybe we could have a whole separate episode maybe about airline lounges, though my access is about to be restricted because Lena's losing her Delta status.
No.
Yeah.
You gotta go to Australia more.
Well, yeah, no, not going to do that. Though we were able to pay for parts of our... Did I tell you about our turducken vacation? Our vacation inside a vacation going to Tasmania from Australia.
You mentioned the turducken vacation. You did not mention what was the turkey and what was the chicken and what was the duck.
Yeah. So we're going to Tasmania, and Lena bought the tickets. Anyway, she used her almost about to expire Qantas points to buy a flight from Sydney to Tasmania, which is like flying from Seattle to LA, or probably even a little bit shorter. So it didn't take that much, but it didn't take that many points, but it also took all the points she had. So you can only imagine how many times you'd have to fly to Australia for free. That would be a lot.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this? Yes, went to LA. So went to the Delta Lounge. The Delta Lounge was the one that was outside. In my experience, actually, I think that the Amex lounges are better than the Delta lounges anyways, at least in New York and Seattle. But the one in LA was really nice because it had an outdoor patio. But I did some research, and other lounges there also have outdoor patios. So maybe that's just a tropical place thing.
Sure.
LA. I'd never been before. The food was amazing. I would definitely go back to eat more food. The tacos are everywhere and are all really good. So that's a big plus. But you can get anything there, kind of like New York. Nice. Overall, though, getting around LA, as soon as we started driving around, I was like, there's something that's bothering me about this place. And obviously, you know, one knows that there's a lot of driving to be done in LA. So it wasn't just that, but eventually I realized that, you know, when you go to a suburban place and there are these, well, what they are the Strodes. Were you the person who was talking about Strodes recently,
The
Colby?
Strodes. I don't know if it was recently, but I feel like I read an article
Somewhat.
or something about
A
Strodes, and
Strode.
it was an interesting new concept to add to the
Yeah, but
repertoire.
and it's one of those things like kerning. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You see them
right,
everywhere.
right.
Um, and and in Seattle, there are Strodes, and then they sort of just become highways,
Mm-hmm.
or they run into a body of water or something, and then they stop. But in the suburbs, a Strode is, again, it's a highway, and then there's like strip malls on either side, and then it becomes a highway again. Not necessarily an actual highway, but effectively one of those roads
Sure.
that the speed limit's 35, but everyone's going 60 anyways. One of those. Um, LA is just a grid of those things connected together. It's all strode all the time in every direction. So,
Strode
like,
City.
and what I expected, though, I was expecting that part. But the part that I wasn't expecting was that a lot of the things on the Strode are things that you'd find in a suburb too. It's like not like, oh, cool. It's like a really nice boutique clothing store or this restaurant. Those are few and far between. It's Subway, gas stations, uh,
Huh.
corner stores serving generic whatever, and then he just loops. It's like in a video game when you realize that it's not actually open world. It's just like repeating the
It's
same tiles over and over
time.
again.
Is it like when we were visiting Seattle, we accidentally drove through
Yes,
a town that you weren't expecting to drive through, and it was like that. It was like the same
yes,
pattern of
yes,
like bikini
yeah.
coffee and pawn shop, car dealership.
I forgot about the bikini coffee. Yeah, and and I think unlike a place like that, there are so many people there that it's like all the worst parts of a suburb and a city, because not only do you have to drive everywhere, but you also can't park anywhere because there's tons and tons of people. So you don't get any of the affordances of a suburban culture where it's like, oh, we'll just drive to this
Mm.
restaurant and park. It's like, no, no, no. One does not simply drive to the restaurant. Um, and the traffic was horrible, and also a part of the highway lit on fire and burned down while we were there. So that was also really exciting.
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
Like
you
the
can
road
Google it.
part?
A whole section, like multiple acres of this highway, just were combusted,
like was
and
there
it's
some
like
sort of
permanently
chemical spill?
closed. There was like a junkyard beneath it that was, I read this morning, probably intentionally lit aflame,
Wow.
filled with cars and gasoline, and yeah, turns out maybe. But now that they mentioned that, I was like, you know, you do see a lot of junkyards beneath highways when they're like the
Sh-
elevated highway.
sure, because
Um,
like what else are you gonna put under them?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that's my review of LA. Uh, a fun place to eat, a miserable place to get around, which is sort of shocking because it's like it's all grid based. It's a relatively new city, um, but they went full Robert Moses on the city planning there, which is pretty crazy.
Who's
Also, it was
Robert
so hot.
Moses?
Oh, Robert Moses is the. This is a whole aside, Colby, but there's a really great book called The Power Broker, and if you're ever watching CNN or MSNBC, you'll see the Power Broker on in the bookshelves behind the talking heads desks,
Mm.
and it's a book about the parks commissioner of New York City in like the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and his it's a really good book, and it's sort of a study on how can you take a little bit of power and leverage it into an immense amount of power, where Robert Moses was a longer tenured than any politician because he wasn't elected, he was appointed,
Mm.
and as a result held at the end of his reign held a lot more power than anyone else because he'd been there the longest and he got to decide all sorts of things, including where the highways were built. Because at the time, I think like you could build a parkway if you were the parks commissioner. So he sort of designed the roads and highways that go through New York and Long Island and upstate New York. Um,
Whoa.
and yeah, and now it's all just permanent. So there's this brief moment after the automobile came about where you had the political capital to change things to accommodate the automobile, but now there is no such political capital, right? It's all frozen, and like the Bronx Queens Expressway is actually collapsing into the ocean, and it's like, well, it's just going to
Huh?
like, as far as I can tell, it's just eventually going to collapse into the ocean, and because there's no possibility of doing anything about it, and like, what are they going to do? Build another highway? You can't do that. So they just seem totally screwed.
Wow.
Anyways, LA is like that, at least outside of the highways in New York. You can live life a different way, but in LA it's all 4 lane, at least 4 lane roads. There's like no 2 lane road. That was the other shocking thing. There's no 2 lane roads. um yeah, and everybody's miserable
Like,
because there's so many people. There's stoplights everywhere, so you
sure.
can't go anywhere quickly even when there is no traffic. But you, as a pedestrian, you're also waiting forever to cross this 4 lane highway with tons
These
of
huge
cars on
roads.
it.
When you say 4 lanes, do you mean 4 lanes
I mean,
total, right?
two
Like
lanes
two
on
in
either
each
side.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can picture it. Wow.
Yep. Um, but yeah, great food. Can recommend the food.
So where do you just park on the street? Is that what you have to do when you're driving
Yes.
around?
Yes. You park on the
Oh,
street, or you find a paid parking lot somewhere if you want to pay money to make the problem go away.
right. Right. Wow. I there's a NPR podcast right now that is happening about the Big Dig
Mm.
in in Massachusetts, in Boston, I guess. And it's interesting because the sort of saga of the whole project is like 40 years. Like it was a thing they started talking about in like the 70s or something, and it kind of came out of the backlash against the crazy highway stuff where they like plowed down like huge swaths of the city to put like an elevated highway like through downtown, that everyone hated. And um but the reason I thought of that is, well, it's interesting because I grew up close enough to Massachusetts where it was like a thing that everyone talked about, and like I was only there for the end part where like they sort of finished the project, but a bunch of like shoddy stuff had happened, and then like people died when the ceiling fell down and stuff. Um,
Oh.
but the that happened one time, just one person died, but the well, like a big cement ceiling tile like fell out of the tunnel. Um, but the you were talking about Robert Moses having power, and I think there was one of the characters in the Big Dig story became originally he was like the secretary of transportation for the governor or something, but after that became like the head of the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority, which I guess like the Parks Commission is a sort of, it's like an appointed and independent from the government like authority, so they can kind of like, I guess they were saying it's kind of by design. It's like, you know them being independent lets them do projects that span longer than the tenure of any given politician without craziness, and it also lets politicians like like have plausible deniability. Like if people don't have like the things that the Turnpike Authority is doing, they can say, well, it's not our fault, they're doing it. They're doing it. But I feel like there was a quote from this person who was like, this is, this is how you get real power, is you become the head of the Turnpike Authority, because then you can actually do things.
Oh, you're reminding me. Robert Moses leveraged his position as Parks Commissioner to get himself appointed to the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority, which
Oh,
was one of
see,
the
this
ways
is
that he designed where the roads went. Because there's water, you need bridges and tunnels.
bridges and tunnels. Isn't that a saying? This very bridge and tunnel.
That does sound familiar.
Like, can't you like call a person bridge and tunnel or something like that?
To describe people who live in communities surrounding the island of Manhattan, New York. That's right. And commute to it for work or entertainment. That's right. The bridge and tunnel people are sort of lesser than
I see.
the people who live in Manhattan. Yes.
Wow. How do we
Except,
get
of
here?
course, well, I guess that is true. I guess the Westchester people, they don't. Although, do you still have to cross a bridge? There's not a tunnel, but is there a bridge? I think there might be a bridge. Isn't there like a little teeny tiny river in like the separates the Bronx from? Yeah. So yeah, you do have to
can't
cross a
escape
bridge.
it. Yeah.
Can't escape it.
Wow.
And is that called The Big Dig, the NPR podcast?
Yes, it's from WGBH.
I see it. Okay.
Yeah, it's been
I'm gonna subscribe.
it's been pretty good. I don't know. I feel like it's easy to enjoy a thing that is about the place you live in, so it's interesting from that perspective. It is interesting to see, like, you can see the remnants of the giant elevated highway, like where it used to be as a park now, which is cool. They did succeed in putting it underground.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. I'm actually looking forward to listening to this podcast because I want to know how they did it.
Yeah.
Solid. Because we need to do lots of things like this now.
Right. More tunnels, less bridges.
Well, when water is concerned, I don't really have a preference between bridges and tunnels. So yeah, we need both, I think, or
Right.
we need both here at least.
That's
we probably
for
need
sure.
more bridges and tunnels at this point. We did our big dig. Actually, that's a good point. It does seem like there is an appetite for taking highways and putting them underground. The problem with the BQE is it is suspended over the water, like cantilevered over the water. So you can't really put it underground because I guess you probably could, but it seems really hard.
And maybe it could just be like an inflatable bubble. Like, it doesn't have to be underground per se. Just like you'd be driving through and it's like a big aquarium. Like, you can see the trash floating by or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, they make floating bridges.
Sure. And then they just have to make a sinking bridge.
Submersible bridge.
Wait, so what were you actually in LA for?
Oh, we were there for a wedding, which was very nice and sort of at this excellent. I don't know, the food was fine, but the venue is incredible. Yamashiro is a restaurant in LA, in Hollywood, and it looks out over LA in this very like observation deck-esque way. And also, if you remember Kill Bill Volume 1, the fight scene in like the dojo was filmed in this restaurant. And that was where the wedding was held. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. But no, it was a great wedding. It wasn't as much sushi as I was expecting. But We can't all have weddings where there's tons of sushi.
So we had the
Yeah.
opposite problem at your wedding.
Yes.
Nice. Nice. Cool.
Colby, I want to get your take on this Humane AI pin since in the before show you revealed that you had no idea what I was talking about.
I did not. I don't know.
Um,
I don't know how this happened.
so I guess I knew about this for a couple years because there's this whole um, there was lots of buzz being created by this company, and they had hired a bunch of people who left Apple who had worked on the original iPhone. And they were going to build this. They're building a company. They actually didn't say what this something. And they were hiring people, and they were all, in a very Apple way, talking about the thing they were building in very mysterious terms. But it was unequivocally going to be amazing. And then last week it sort of leaked, and then the next day they announced it. I think it was always planned to be announced the next day. And it is a computer that you magnetically attach to a piece of clothing that you're wearing. And it listens to things you say so you can talk to it. Um, it has a camera so it can see things, and its big gimmick is not the right word, but the thing that really differentiates it from other things is it has a projector. So you hold your hand out and it projects a UI onto your hand, and then you can move your hand to interact with the UI. Or I think you can touch. I don't actually know. I don't think you can touch things with your other hand, um, which is cool. But anyways, and then they had been talking recently. It's like it's going to be the first AI first gadget, which definitely feels like a, I don't know how baseball works. What is it? Ninth inning pivot. Because they've
Yeah.
been working on this thing for
Right.
3 or 4
Right.
years, or longer, I think. Um, and it uses ChatGPT and Microsoft, OpenAI, blah blah blah. And it's $700, and it costs $25 a month for a subscription to use it, which hooks your stuff up to their cloud and allows you to. So I guess features that they sort of touted were it knows all of your emails. I don't know if it knows all of your SMS messages, and it knows your calendar. So kind of like a lady in the tube, you can ask things of it, and then it uses AI to like summarize things, and you can also use AI to like uh, dictate a message, but you're not really dictating. You're just sort of describing a gist of what you want to be conveyed, and then it reads back what it wrote, and then you can say, make it more exciting or make it more respectful or something like that. So those are the features. They have a 10-ish minute video, which I think is interesting to watch because it I don't think it's a very good video. It's like um at first you could see how a bunch of people who worked at Apple would produce a video like this. I don't know if you're watching it now.
No,
Um,
I've just been
it's highly
scrolling through
produced.
their website. It's a very
It,
Apple-y, swoopy scrolly website.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. The
anyways,
captive scrolling.
yeah.
Um, it's a very. You could see how this is inspired by how Apple pitches things in one sense, but then in another sense, when you watch the video, everyone's so somber. And I couldn't put my finger on this until I heard or read other people talk about this, but it doesn't. They're not. It doesn't sound exciting. It's not like or fun. It's just like,
Right.
oh, you can show it things and it tells you how much calories are in there, and it'll summarize your work messages. Bless you. It's like that's not aspirational. You know, I don't know. And they just were very very even keeled, very one note during the presentation, which I thought was weird for in retrospect for people who work at Apple. Like they when they introduce a new product, it's never this is great for business and we help you stay fit or something, like take the Apple Watch, sure, it helps you do all those things, but there's also all like the whimsy and the fun, and people are excited to use it, like let's go stand up paddleboarding or something like that,
Right.
which wasn't really present here at all. So anyways, that's my understanding of what this whole thing is, and now I'm curious what your reaction is to it, having heard me talk about it and having seen the website.
So I definitely, so now that I'm looking at the website, I did see uh like I did see something with the hand, the projection on the hand somewhere at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it didn't make an impression on me. Kind of interesting. Um
Oh, one other piece of the story I left out was for a while, like leading up to this, they were like I think their first sort of teaser for the teaser was about how people don't want to. Maybe that's not what they said. You shouldn't be glued to your phone. We're going to liberate you from the phone. So the other thing that is important to understand is this is a separate device that is designed to replace your phone. It can take phone calls, and I guess it has a phone number, and that's how it does SMS, maybe. Um, and a common criticism is people like their phones and they don't want to get rid of them. Like no
sure.
one was saying in 2007, well, that's not true. People were saying in 2007, I love my flip phone. But as soon as you saw a smartphone, an iPhone, it was obvious that this was all of that and more. It was better than. Um, it's a tough ask to ask people to ditch their smartphones, which is part of their marketing message.
Right.
And also, it's a little unclear. Like you can't really play a game on this. You can't watch a movie on it. There are lots of things that it cannot do that a smartphone can do.
Sure. It does. It makes me think of like the Star Trek thing when they poke their button.
Mm-hmm. The
Um,
communicator.
yes, exactly, exactly. Except it's watching you, I guess, or it's watching everyone
Oh,
else, which is
that's
weird.
another thing. It is not always watching or always listening. You always have to press the button to get it to activate, which seemed to
Oh,
be a product decision on their part.
sure. Okay, I assumed it was uh, always watching. That's then it's even more like the Star Trek communicator. Um,
Yeah.
it's definitely kind of interesting. Uh, I'm trying to imagine what life would be like with this thing. Can it give you directions? Does it talk out loud, like, or are you like headphone
Yes, it
connected to it?
has the personic speaker and it somehow talks out loud to you, but kind of in a way that maybe you can hear better than other people, but I can't imagine is private, obviously.
Right, right. It's like uh interesting.
I mean, one thing that I noticed very early on is in a lot of their product images and in the video, someone's wearing like, oh, I'm wearing a cool leather jacket with like the lapels that flare out. And so
Mhm.
obviously I magnetically, it's like, what is it? It's like one of those name tags in college. I put the magnet back, which is also the battery, which is cool. So the back of the thing is the battery. And you
That's
put the
cool.
front plate on it. And it has I'm guessing it has a mini battery in the main unit, so you can swap them out and it remains on. Um, and but if you're wearing like what you're wearing, are you going to like reach up your shirt to take it on or off? Are you going to leave it on all the time? What it
Mm,
that seems difficult. What happens if you're exercising? Do you need to get like an iPhone
super
style
clip.
band for it or something so it doesn't come flying off?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if
I
it's
do a
on your
lot.
shirt, how heavy is it? Does it just sag down? Like a lot of these coats that they're demonstrating on is like, oh, this is a nice firm piece of leather.
Right, right.
and
I
not
just,
just
I just,
an
I
$18
just put
Cotton Bureau shirt.
right. I just put the video on, and like the lady, one of the people is wearing like an actual leather coat, which is like, sure. I guess the
Yeah.
guy has like a more of a sweater t-shirt thing, but um, yeah, I do a lot of layering. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like do you, I guess maybe it's something that stays inside your clothes, like inside your coat and stuff, but it's kind of weird. The personic
But
speaker.
then it can't. Yeah, I think it would kind of stop working at that point.
Right. Yeah. Like it wouldn't be very. I guess maybe you could talk to it in your coat. No one would think you were weird. Like hello.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing is I get why they made it not listen all the time. Like there are people who wouldn't like that,
Sure.
and that's a choice you can make. But imagine how if to me it would be much more useful if it was listening and watching all the time, like, rewind AI but for your real life. That's an obvious use case. But
Right.
also like one of the things they recorded or they demonstrated was you can hold up a piece of fruit or like a bowl of nuts and it'll tell you like, oh, those are cashews, and I can estimate roughly how many cashews are in there, and I know what the calorie of each cashew is, so here's the calorie load for that, which is cool. But wouldn't it be better if I could just ask it like, hey, how many calories have I had today, and I don't have to like log everything? Like, I'm at Chipotle, hey Pin, beep beep, what's in this burrito, and isn't even going to know that I'm at Chipotle and what is in the burrito. Um, but anyways, if it could, it would be way more useful if I didn't have to tell it those things. And if it could pop up and be like, hey, just so you know, this burrito puts you over the limit that you set for today, or something like that. Instead of having to remember to do all this, because if the point is to you know get people off of their phones, and I think that's not a reason in and of itself, right? So if your vision is that the technology should get out of the way and you shouldn't be looking at your phone all the time, you should be interacting with the world. But if I have to press my thing and wait for something to power up and talk to something and wait for it to talk to the internet, isn't that also kind of getting in the way? It's not visually,
Yeah.
but
Right. Yeah. I guess you don't have to look at it, but yeah. I feel like you also. It also seems like you kind of can't. I know, like a phone isn't fully private, right? Like someone could look over your shoulder or something. But if this thing is just like talking, like talking at you, is it ever really going to be like a full replacement for your phone? Like, sure,
yeah.
maybe
Or at a
if you're
concert,
at
Imagine
home,
like
sure,
someone's trying
yeah,
to get a
right,
hold of you. You're at a concert. It's not going to
right,
work.
right, fully not possible. Uh, I mean, I
Another
guess,
really compelling thing I read was uh, there's a lot people. The technology industry is really interested in voice right now because because it is cool, right? It's a new thing that wasn't as possible 10, 15 years ago and is getting more and more possible. And especially with the generative AI stuff, you can have a much more fluid, real language conversation. But um, the the information density of looking at something is so much greater than listening to someone. A graph can tell, so we've both read the Edward Tufte book, can
sure,
tell you so much more than even a paragraph in way less time. Uh, and so, yeah, this whole notion that the only you don't need to bring your phone, you just need something that talks to you. It's like, I mean, maybe for some people, like the people who only have their Apple Watch because they just want to unplug, that makes sense. But if you're going to take one device with you and you're going out for the day to do stuff, you're going to be gone all day, of course you're going to take your phone. What happens if someone sends you an email, you need to review something and respond and send it back? even if you
Right.
could do it purely via voice with an AI automatically summarizing thing, and you hope that they don't leave out any important information, it would still take longer. And now is technology really getting out of the way?
Right. Different sort of in the way.
Yeah.
Weird.
All
Well,
right.
I don't understand how I missed this, but
Well, you did, it sounds like you didn't totally miss it, which makes me feel a little bit better.
yeah, right. I did see it. I just didn't understand what it meant. Nice. Well, thanks for
Well,
bringing me up to speed. Are you ordering
when
one?
does
It's
when do
November
yeah, I was gonna
16th. You
say
can
just in a
order one.
couple of days, right?
AI Pin challenge.
I Yeah, I am not going to be taking the AI pin challenge because I have other challenges I need to be taking. But if you are welcome to, Colby, and report back.
I also have other challenges, I think.
um, Speaking of challenges, you challenged us, or maybe only me at this point, to list. What exactly did you say? You said we should talk about all the ways to make coffee. And you sent us a list of 20 different coffee brewing methods and asked us to make a list of how many we tried, which I did. Though in
Nice.
classic podcast format, I have questions about what counts as trying. Maybe we should start there.
Sure. Well,
Does it count if I've tasted it, or do I also have had to make it myself? I made both lists just in case.
I also made both lists. After I sent the message, I realized I should have been more specific, and so I tallied both.
Okay, great. Then we're on the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, I guess we can just go through the list. We can say if we've done it or not, and then maybe if we like it or not.
Okay.
The first one is cowboy coffee. Dan, have you ever made cowboy coffee?
I don't
I
think I've
feel
ever
like
made cowboy coffee.
I was gonna say I feel like you're the most likely of the three of us. You're the most likely to have made cowboy coffee. 'Cause I certainly
Yeah,
haven't.
that seems fair. I don't remember specifically ever having it, though it seems likely that I have. Um, I also though remember. Actually, no. I guess this counts as a different brewing method, but I have made coffee with improvised filters, such as paper towels and other things. Um, but I don't think that quite counts.
Now, I guess maybe I should pull the article up too. I don't even know what cowboy coffee is. It's under the
It's very simple.
boiling
So
method.
you put coffee and water in a vessel, and then you boil the water, and then you pour out the coffee. No filter. Hashtag no filter.
Sure. I guess that makes sense. It seems pretty achievable anywhere.
Yeah.
Over a fire or whatnot. Nice. Well, cowboy coffee, who knows? What about Turkish coffee, Dan?
I have tried Turkish coffee.
Me too.
I can't say for sure if the Turkish coffee that I had was brewed in this way. But I went to a Turkish restaurant. I ordered Turkish coffee. It tasted very different. It has fixins sort of, and those things came with it. So I assume it was brewed this way, and it was very, very tasty.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. I think there's sugar in it, right? Like it when it's brewed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It says to make it combine powdered coffee grounds with sugar.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was good too.
I mean, it was good, and that's right. I do remember. I remember that it was kind of frothy, like a cappuccino. Yeah.
Right. Nice. All right, we're on to the steeping methods. French press.
Yes, done it. I've done it and I've tasted it. French press is my preferred way to make lots of coffee. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't have a large French press. But when I have had access to a large French press, it's really good and it's really easy to make a large batch.
Nice.
That's what I've found.
Do you have any? I've definitely like done it once or twice, but not. I don't like own a French press, so it's not a big part of my life. Do you have any
I have like a
brewing?
teeny tiny, almost 1 cup French press. Um,
Wow.
but the problem is for that, it is a pain in the butt to clean. That's the problem. I
Mm,
really like the coffee that you get out of it. Uh, but it's a pain in the butt to clean, and it never seemed worth it to do A every day, or B for so little coffee if you might make a second batch.
right. Nice. Oh, this article lists the grind size to medium coarse. I don't know if that's, I don't know what measurement that is, but it sounds useful. Cold brew, Dan. I've made cold brew.
I have not, and this is something I want to do next summer. So tell me, how do you make cold brew?
Um, the long and the short of it is like you grind your coffee pretty big, like it's a pretty coarse grind. Like on the we have the same coffee grinder. It's like 30 plus, like 32 or 34 is like normal. And you take a bunch of coffee and put it in water and you let it sit like overnight or for a day or something. And then you strain out the coffee and you get from this process you get like concentrate. So you get like super intense coffee, and usually you take like 2 ounces of coffee and add 6 ounces of water, and then you have a cold brew. Um, and it's good.
So
It's
when
it,
Wirecutter tells you, "Oh, this is the best cold brewer, whatever they
right,
call it," what
right.
what advantage, if any, does that offer you?
The cold brew, like we have a cold brew brewer that is not. It's not the wire cutter one, but usually it's just like an apparatus that makes it easier to drain the coffee out of the um out of the grounds, right? So
I
it's
see.
like it probably the wire cutter one I think has like a built-in filter that is like washable, and it like fits the sort of like brewing thing fits like over the carafe, and you just like pull, press a button or
I see.
something,
So you get to
and the coffee
trigger
comes
when
out.
it starts draining the coffee.
Right, right,
Okay.
right. But like I've done cold brew with, you can get like a bag. um
Right? Like iced tea.
Yeah, it's just like a big bag that you put all your coffee grounds in, and then you just throw it in a thing of water, and then when you're ready, you just take the bag out, and like squeeze it a little, and then you're good to go.
Ooh, can I use a cheesecloth?
Probably.
I have a cheesecloth. It seems like
Hey,
you
you
can
could
use a
do it tomorrow.
cheesecloth. All right.
I
I could do it tomorrow.
mean, you could start tonight if you really get to it after the podcast. Um, yeah, cold brew's good. It's nice because I mean, you're making. I guess it depends how much beans and water you use, but you can make like uh, an amount of coffee only limited by the size of the container you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, I guess it's a more economical way to drink coffee. When you put it that way. You'd be a
I
fool
don't
not
know.
to have cold brew.
I don't know. I'd never done the math on like the beans. Uh,
Yeah.
like I don't know how that the coffee weight to coffee's you know, number of cups of coffee produced works out. But it's great. All right, on to the next one. Coffee bags. Have you ever used a coffee bag?
No. Um,
Me
to
either.
be honest, I've never brewed coffee with coffee bags, and these are basically tea bags, right?
Hey, it kind of looks like if you're looking at, well, maybe I can put it on the screen here. That's a better idea. Do 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 do. Window. This one. Can you see my thing?
No.
Oh no. Your browser needs screen sharing permission.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
looking.
All right.
I'm looking at it though. I see what you're
I'll
seeing. So
I'll
this looks
describe the
like
coffee
a.
bag. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh.
Oh,
Do it.
this looks like a sort of origami uh, piece of cardboard that is gripping either side of a coffee mug, and then nestled in this nest of cardboard is a what looks like a large tea bag, open topped. And in this image, they're pouring water into the open top tea bag. And I'm guessing it's kind of like pour over at that point. It just drips out the bottom.
Right. It seems really elaborate.
Yeah, I have questions about this one because are these bags that you pre-purchase and they're filled and you open them up, or are you stuffing these bags? Because it does say grind size, so I guess you're stuffing these bags with coffee yourself. It doesn't seem
Oh, weird. It's just
like it
like
saves
a
you a lot of time,
right.
and it
It's
doesn't
like a
really
combination
explain.
filter, right? It's like it looks like a combination filter and like pour over thing that you can
And if you Google coffee
throw
bag,
away
you get
after.
bags of coffee, which is not helpful.
I think they made this up. All right. Coffee bags. Weird. No one's tried it. Dan, what about a siphon brewer?
I have tried this at. I remember. I couldn't tell you where, but I remember someone took me to some place in New York. It was probably Kyle, and they had one of these. I want to say it was billed as a Japanese thing. They had
Mm-hmm.
one of these things slowly cranking away in the back, and you could pay an ungodly amount of money to have coffee brewed by this thing, which I did. And I remember it being very good. But not something I would do again necessarily. Certainly not something that I would undertake myself.
Mm. Now, Dan, I would it surprise you to learn that I own a siphon brewer.
it that is mildly surprising, but the first thing I thought of when I saw this was the cocktail book that I can't remember the name of. Um, Liquid Intelligence, where
Oh, yeah.
they have all crazy stuff like this. So I did kind of think of you when I read about this method.
So I think I have to imagine the thing that you witnessed was a really elaborate contraption. Uh, but they're
Yes, it
like
looks like a
pretty
steampunk, something you'd find in a steampunk store in the mall.
right. Yeah, yeah. If you Google siphon coffee pot or something, they're like pretty simple stovetop ones. And they had, there was a period of time in like the 70s or something when this was like sort of a fad and they were kind of popular. And my
Oh.
uncle, I have an uncle who likes to I don't know, he like used to go to like flea markets and stuff and get stuff from that era. So like everyone in our family has one of these siphon brewers. It's like two glass coffee pots like stacked on top of each other.
Yep.
And like you put the coffee in the top and the water in the bottom, and you boil the water and it gets like sucked up into the top and like brews the coffee, and then like the coffee sort of like you have to do some stuff, and like eventually the brewed coffee finds its way back down into the bottom part of of the brewer. It's
That is really
weird.
cool.
It's pretty elaborate. It's a little finicky to do, but it does work. You know, I've done it before several times. It comes out pretty good. I haven't really
That's
refined
cool.
the process, but
That's cool and a great
siphon
party trick.
totally. I should take it out for parties more often. Instant coffee. You an
Yes.
instant coffee person?
I use coffee. Instant coffee when camping, and I
Mm.
use the I should have looked this up beforehand. There's a Fancy Lad instant coffee company called. Let me see if I can find it, but I will look. Verve, that's what it's called. VERV. I will put it in the show notes.
Nice. I don't think I've well, I don't think I've ever made instant coffee myself, but growing up, my dad would always make iced coffee in the afternoon with instant coffee. And it was pretty good. Put a little cream and sugar in it. It was solid. It was just Folgers, like the plastic jar of Folgers instant coffee.
Is that instant coffee? I never connected that. I thought that was just a box of coffee grounds.
Oh, I mean there is non-instant Folgers coffee,
Oh, okay.
but they also make instant coffee.
Oh,
So,
I see. The
right,
big can is not instant coffee, but the little svelte hourglass shaped thing that looks like instant coffee.
right, right. Nice. Uh, wow, we're not even halfway through. We gotta get cranking on
All right,
these.
let's pick it up.
Stovetop percolator.
Wait, let me pull up my notes. No,
I've
I don't
never.
think so. No,
Me either.
I've seen them. They look really
Yep,
cool.
yep, yep. I've never used one. Auto drip machine. Naturally, the
Yes,
classic coffee maker,
I
Mister
have. I've
Coffee.
never owned one.
Really, I've owned one. I owned a
So
fancy
I've
one.
I've used them at Airbnbs and at other people's houses and at Marist desktop IT departments before I even drank coffee and I was asked to make coffee. But that's
Wow,
it.
nice, nice. Non-Chemex pour overs.
I'm pretty sure I have. I don't own a non-Chemex pour over though.
Mm. For a long time, I had like an OXO pour over thing that,
Yeah.
in addition to the like filter thing where you put the coffee, it had like a water reservoir on top with like holes, and you would just fill it with hot water, and it would like do the pouring over for you. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good. It's pretty easy. Specialty pour overs. What is the difference? Those are the same thing.
I was confused on that.
Also, something I noticed, Dan, is that in the article lists 20 things, but the uh, graphic at the top only has 19 things. And I spent 10 minutes trying to figure out what was duplicated, like what was missing from the graphic. And obviously it's specialty pour over and regular pour over. Some BS. All right, the Chemex. They're really milking the pour over
Yeah.
category.
Yeah. I don't understand the difference between these three categories. Um, and so I own a Chemex. This is, and I have for almost 10 years. And this is how I make most of my coffee. What I like about it is that it tastes very tea-like. It's not very concentrated. I find the Chemex makes sort of uh, coffee that brings out flavors other than the like acidic flavors, so it kind of comes out more
Mm,
floral, which I really like. And also, it's pretty easy to clean up, and you can get biodegradable, compostable paper filters. You flop one out, you throw it in the trash, and you rinse out your thing, and you're good to go.
right. Throw it in the
It's dishwasher
compost.
safe. You can put it in the dishwasher.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was dishwasher safe.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've been washing mine out by hand. Dan, as you know, we recently got a Chemex and have been experimenting. We came into um, like a pot, like a kettle, like an electric
Mm-hmm.
kettle that has the spout. Um, so we
Goosenecks
figured,
spout.
yes, exactly. And we had also been talking about trying to drink a little less coffee because Laura's been
Mm.
having some physical symptoms recently. Some like light twitching in the
A
afternoon.
lot of what do they call it?
Uh,
Tremolo. Is that when you add some wobbliness to your string playing? Just a
right,
little bit too
right.
much.
A little right. Some involuntary trauma. Yeah. So that's been fun. Um, what about this clever dripper, Dan?
Clever dripper. Uh, I've used things that look like this.
Same. One one
But
one of the
actually, now that I'm reading this more carefully, I have never used one that had a valve. So maybe
mm,
I should uncheck this. I've used something like this for tea, but not for coffee.
nice. I one of the jobs I had, this was the coffee method that was available.
Wow.
Like there was like a grinder and a bunch of these things and like a thing that produced hot water. And if you wanted coffee, you could make yourself a cup of coffee on demand. It came out pretty good. It was not bad at all. I think there was a scale even. It was actually kind of fancy now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
Mm-hmm. Man, all this is making me want coffee. All right. We're on to the pressure methods. Have you used an espresso machine?
Yes, I have.
Nice.
We had my mom got an espresso machine for working at H&R Block for like 30 years, and she was kind enough
Oh,
to give it to. It was not, it's not one of these Italian 300-pound
sure.
espresso machines. Um, it was sort of a very countertop unit, um, but I did use it, um, and it seemed fine. It I'm not I haven't reached the sort of nirvana of espresso yet. I think this is an area in which I'm lacking in my education, and I'm motivated to. It would be cool to have one of these because Lena used to work at a coffee shop and can do all the fancy latte art
what?
stuff. So it would be to my, but she doesn't drink coffee, so it'd be to my benefit to
Oh,
have one of these someday. But again, there's a lot of challenges that need to be addressed, and I don't think that one's going to rise to the top anytime soon.
darn. We have like a mini, like a little Breville espresso maker thing that is also not Italian. Um, but it's pretty fun. It's like uh it's fun when it's going well, but there's also like a lot that can go wrong in your process, and so when it's not going well, often you don't know why, and it's very annoying because you wanted to drink a cup of coffee and it has gone awry. At
Yeah,
least that's my experience as a non-professional trying to use the espresso maker. All right, number 15, the mocha pot. I think I've seen these like on Instagram or something. Never used one.
what is the difference between this and a stovetop percolator?
I think it's size. I feel like something that is not clear from the picture of stovetop percolators is that they're like pretty big, and this is I think a stovetop percolator is closer to the size of a pot of coffee, for like multiple cups of coffee, and this thing is like it makes like a shot of espresso,
And
basically.
it's doing sort of the same thing that the your fancy 2 cup thing is doing, where it's turning heating up the water, turning it into steam, passing through the grounds, and condensing into coffee.
Right,
Okay, that makes
right.
sense. So no, I
All
have
right,
neither. I don't believe I've ever tried this, and I've never used one.
me either. What about an AeroPress?
I own an AeroPress. I have used it for extended periods of time. It's even easier to clean than the Chemex. So you sort of uh, extrude out all the coffee. It's like a plunger, and you can push all the coffee out from the other end uh, after you've used it, and like straight into the
Mm,
compost or whatever. And it's also dishwasher safe. You put it in the top rack of the dishwasher. It's ready to go the next day. Um, and the coffee it makes is really good. It's more, it's less tea like and a bit stronger than the Chemex, um,
right.
but it's very fast to use. The only, yeah, as this thing points out, you do have to buy these special filters, which is annoying,
Yep.
but great for camping or
Mm.
traveling or things like that where you're in a coffee compromise situation.
Yeah, we brought this on vacation, like to hotels, and like
Yeah.
just like you use the hotel coffee pot to heat up the water, and then make the coffee in the AeroPress. It's better.
Yes.
Nice. Sean's favorite, the single serve pod machine, Keurigs of the world.
I mean, everyone's used one, right?
Hmm. I think so. I certainly have. I think I owned a mini one in college.
So did I.
Yeah. My parents had one. Everybody has them. Lesser known coffee brewing methods. Vietnamese fin? Is that the.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you say this. I have also had Vietnamese coffee served at a fancy pants Vietnamese breakfast restaurant in New York.
Nice.
Um, I can't say for sure that it was brewed this way, but it did taste fairly different from other coffees I've had, um, and it was really good.
Mm, nice. I haven't had this, nor do I own one. Nitrous coffee.
Yes,
Nitro cold brew.
yes, I have not made one, obviously, but I've had a Starbucks nitrous cold brew in my day. No, there's no shame in that.
My hot take is I don't like them very much.
Hmm. I don't like them if it's just cold brew. I don't think it adds anything. I really like the is it Starbucks or Blue Bottle that has the one that is has maybe it is sweet condensed milk or something in it, and the it's
Oh,
just
and nitrous.
has a little. I think if you add like a syrup to it, the
Mm,
contrast of the texture of like the syrup versus the foaminess of the coffee is something I like. But if it's just a cold brew with foam, it doesn't really do it for me.
all right. I'm going to keep an eye out for that. All right. Puerto Rican cafe con leche. With the sock coffee.
Okay, I was wondering about this because I was like, I don't know if I've tried this, but if I did try it, it would have been with you. And now that you mentioned the sock coffee, I remember that I have tried it.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know that I've had it prepared in the way that is described here with milk, but I've definitely had coffee made with the
Yeah,
fabric filter thingy. It's good.
yeah.
Comes out
It
good.
was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what's your
Well,
final score?
my my final score. So when I went through, I have had 15 of these, and I've made 11 of them myself.
Nice. You beat me out. I have tried 14 of them and I've only made 8.
Wow, nice. It's that siphon one. It's too weird.
Yeah.
Deep cuts.
And two quick follow-up questions, Colby.
All
How do
right.
you and we'll have to talk about decaf coffee some other time actually. One follow-up question. What is your preferred method of acquiring coffee? You a subscription
Mm.
boy? Do you go out and source artisanal Boston coffee, you know, scrounging around on the street? How are you doing it?
uh, we subscribe to Greater Boston Artisanal Coffee. So it's coffee that uh I've had it around. Like some of the coffee shops around have coffee from the place we get it from. It's called Grace Note. Um, but they
Oh,
do a
that's right. You told me
subscription.
about that.
Right. They do it. They do a subscription, and they just will send you. You can get whatever you want. Like they'll do like a rotating. We do a rotating like the light whatever a light roast of the month, and we get a pound of it
Yep.
or 12 ounces or whatever. What about you? Do you still have your funky pod things?
I've almost worked my way through those. Uh,
Nice.
I was subscribing to uh, counterculture coffee initially, and I would get, I think, the same thing there. And then I tried a couple different subscription things. I tried trade coffee subscription, which is fun. You get stuff from all over the country. Um, but we are entering a period of extended traveling, so I've canceled all my subscriptions, and I've been working my way
Smart.
through the frozen coffee pods. Um, which I guess it wasn't on here, but is sort of a mixture of the cowboy method, really, and the one single use coffee pod method. Um,
Well, and are they? Do you think those are like cold brew or something? Because that's the thing. A thing you can do with cold brew is you can make hot coffee with cold brew, right? Like if you take the concentrate and add it to hot water.
I think that's basically what's happening. I think they are doing something. They are. My understanding from the website was that they're doing a fancy brewing method like the evaporating thing, and then they're freezing it very quickly with some fancy freezing method. But
Sure.
essentially, yeah, it is concentrate, and
Nice.
you add more water than there is concentrate, and you get some coffee out.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, subscriptions are tricky when you go away. It really disrupts the. Even if you. The problem is not always that we're not home when the delivery comes. It's that our rate of consumption is disrupted, and one
Yeah.
ends up with a surplus.
Yes. And another problem with the frozen coffee pod is uh, the second time. Actually, I think every time I have received it, I was not home and I wasn't able to get to it fast enough, and it melted just a little bit. And then the coffee pods are kind of hard to use, which is annoying.
Darn. Darn. All right. Well, we did it. Do you
We
have
did
any
it.
picks?
Uh,
My
no.
pick is the Big Dig podcast.
Yes. No, I don't have any picks. I can talk about a pick next week, though.
Okay. Sounds good. Oh, God. I have to shut it off. Well, on behalf of Sean, we're Dan and Colby. Go listen to Up for
Peace out.
Debate. What are you waiting for?
Of course, of course.
Right. I haven't listened to the sandwich episode yet, but I assume it'll be ridiculous. Italian wedding sandwiches or something. Monsters. All right. Bye, everyone. I don't know how to stop it. How does it work? Oh, stop button.